Hey everybody, and welcome to On Ramp. It's Josh and Kristen here, and we are so grateful that you have decided to partner with us. In fact, there's something unique that happens when you go beyond just attending a great church and choose to build one.
Some of you might be asking, all right, what's the story with Thrive Church? Have they always met in this warehouse space in Fulshire? Thrive was planted in 2009 as a church for the rest of us. People in process, imperfect people, simply trying to figure out what it looks like to walk in daily relationship with a Jesus who loves them.
And that's probably a part of your story. You came in for the first time, or maybe someone dragged you in here for the first time, and you thought, oh no, the walls are gonna cave in on me. But they didn't. In fact, you saw some people that didn't take themselves too seriously, and yet they took Jesus incredibly seriously. And maybe you thought to yourself for the first time or for the first time in a long time, maybe following Jesus could actually be fun.
Josh and I came on as lead pastors in March of 2020, but the mission of Thrive has been the same since day one in 2009, to make it easy for people to find and follow Jesus. And we've been dedicated to that mission no matter what location we've met in. Thrive started in a school, we went to a theater for a little bit, we went back to a school, ultimately landing us in this warehouse space today. And we know one thing: no matter what location we are in, we are dedicated to that mission of Thrive Church.
And that's because the church is not a building or a location. The church is the people gathered together on mission and for a purpose. In fact, you're gonna hear oftentimes that purpose here at Thrive said this way: when we respond to the love that God has for us, and when we receive that love and then reflect that love to the world that's around us, we will be living on purpose and for a purpose. We'll be living out that mission of the church.
Our heart at Thrive would be to create an environment, a wide open door that anybody, anywhere in their faith journey can walk in and discover the grace and mercy and love of Jesus. But that their relationship, that your relationship wouldn't stop there. We make it easy to find Jesus, but also to follow Jesus, learning together as a faith community what it means to walk in daily relationship with a Jesus who loves us so much.
My guess is that's why you're here. You're wanting to choose to partner with a church like that, a church that's on mission, a church that helps you live out your purpose, a church where we can all come together and make an impact and a difference for the love of Jesus. I look forward to what God has for us together as we come in partnership toward that mission. And I look forward to your next steps right here at Thrive Church.
Churches are full of people. The broken, the lonely, the wanderers, the hopeful, the enthusiastic, the lost, the passionate, and the faithful. For many, this gathering represents the whole of their church experience. They'll listen attentively to a message, they'll sing a few songs, they'll be invited to pray, and then they'll return to their lives. But for some, questions will start bubbling to the surface of their faith. Is this the extent of what Jesus intended for his followers? Who is the church for? Why does the world need the church, and what is the church after all? Well, a church isn't the building where people attend weekly services. It's not a program, a list of rules, or a philosophy. The church isn't a political affiliation, a country club, or a holiday tradition. The church was never intended to be just an assembly of people wearing nice clothes and saying nice things. The church is all the followers of Jesus everywhere. The Greek word for church is the word ekklesia. It's the combination of two words, ek, which means out, and kaleo, meaning called. Thus, the church, the ekklesia, means the called out ones. In other words, the church, the collective body of all the followers of Jesus everywhere, is called out by someone for something, for a purpose. The beginning of the book of Acts has Jesus calling his disciples to a task, bringing something called the gospel, the good news, to all the world. And this gospel would go out to all the outsiders, the forgotten, the abandoned, and the excluded. And they, those outsiders, would see and receive that good news as actually good. And when Jesus talked about the gospel, it was always in conjunction with something else, something called the kingdom of God. And in the kingdom of God, God's purposes are made apparent. There's justice and righteousness. There's hope for the poor and for the oppressed. And under the kingdom of God, mercy and forgiveness take precedence over bitterness and resentment. Now, people previously deemed to be far from God are brought into his family, adopted as his sons and daughters. And the fullness of the kingdom of God, according to Jesus, is not merely expressed as a way for people to escape an evil world when they die. Rather, the good news of God's kingdom is about the announcement of God's eternity moving into the present world and carrying on into the life to come. The people who belong to Jesus join him in his worldwide restoration project. And the called out ones, the church, are committed to advancing this good news of God's kingdom into the world, not as a means of helping people avoid the world, but rather to see God's kingdom life being made real here and now. The whole church with the power of the whole gospel for the whole world.